And I know I can get it because I've seen it, as I said, all over the bookshelves in the local bookstores. Independent Canadian books, like an autumn walk at dusk, right? Dreams, reality. Oh, the tortoise's name is Magic. Just so you know, that confused me for a moment. Who knows why I would feel that way, but I'm just nervous. I'm nervous. It's kind of like what just happened with Taylor Swift. The betrayal, the poor quality work. Okay, I'm sorry, Mona Awad. I don't want to prejudge you. I need to read your book before. Hi everyone, it's me, Jess. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. I know it's been a minute since I made a video, and in that period of time, fall arrived. It's very warm here, or at least it has been for the last week, but the leaves are changing on the trees, and definitely last night and the night before were cool. It's starting to feel a bit colder, and I can feel the smell of the fall air, I guess. So I wanted to make a video about Canadian books that have come out in the past month and a half, and that are on my radar for fall reading. I always have a really long TBR, but I do enjoy exploring particularly the Canadian releases, so that's what we're going to do today. So the first book I'm going to talk about is The Hunger We Pass Down by Jen Sookfong Lee. Jen Sookfong Lee wrote a memoir that I read last year, I think for Nonfiction November, called Superfan, which I really enjoyed. I will leave a link in the description box below with that review. So The Hunger We Pass Down is described as Jordan Peele's Us meets The School for Good Mothers. I did read The School for Good Mothers, and it was pretty horrifying. It was a really upsetting book. It was about a woman who was put into a reform school with other negligent mothers, and you know, it was very dystopian and felt close to our reality, but at the same time far-fetched. So those are always pretty terrifying, and I think that's what we're to expect here. The summary reads, single mother Alice Chow is drowning. With a booming online cloth diaper shop, her resentful teenage daughter Luna, and her screen-obsessed son Luca, Alice can never get everything done in a day. It's all she can do to just collapse on the couch with a bottle of wine every night. Oh, that doesn't sound good. It's a relief when Alice wakes up one morning and everything has been done. The counters are clear, the kids' rooms are tidy, orders are neatly packed and labeled. Wow. But no one confesses they've helped, and Alice doesn't remember staying up late to do the work. Someone or something has been doing her chores for her. Oh, so it's like a fairy godmother situation. Alice should be uneasy, but the extra time lets her connect with her children and with her hard-edged mother, who begins to share their haunted family history from Alice's great-grandmother, a comfort woman during World War II, through to Alice herself. Sometimes these are badly written. But the family demons, both real and subconscious, are about to become impossible to ignore. Sharp and incisive, The Hunger We Pass Down traces the ways intergenerational trauma transforms from mother to daughter and asks what it might take to break that cycle. I'm not sure about this one. Those summaries never do these novels justice. I do think it will be interesting. I did like her memoir, Superfan, so I think it could be good. It could be very, if it leans into the thriller aspect of the mysterious entity that's doing her chores, I think that could be really good. I'd be willing to give that a try. I do like this time of year when it's haunted season is upon us. I really like looking for haunted books or mystery books or thrillers particularly. So I'm going to see if I can find that one at my library. I was at the library this morning and I managed to find one of these books, but not the others. But I am hoping, because They're all Canadian titles, so I am hoping that I'll be able to find a few of them. The next book that looks really good to me on this list, by the way, the list that I'm drawing from is put out by the Quill and Choir. I will leave a link to their fall preview in the description box below. I don't know if I would say I cherry-picked. I picked a lot of the books on their list, but I didn't go through all of them. I'm not going through all of them. And the next one that I chose, and this was a Globe and Mail fall book of 2025. Normally I do a Globe and Mail list, but I actually couldn't find a Globe and Mail list. I found a CBC list, but in the end I decided to go with this Quill and Choir list, which I find they're a great resource for finding out about independent Canadian literature. The next one that I picked is Self-Care by Russel Smith. So this is an electric examination of women and men, sex and love, self-loathing, and 21st century loneliness. Between writing a weekly column for the Hype Report and managing her mood stabilizers, Gloria navigates a series of quasi-relationships while commiserating with her best friend about dating apps and dick pics, married men, and questionable boundaries. Oh, that sounds like fun. But when she makes a glib pass at Darren, a stranger on a subway platform, whoa, that's nervy, crowded with young anti-immigration protesters, and finds him waiting for her outside her health club a couple of days later, a surprising curiosity leads her not to consider a restraining order, but to talk to him. Again, I find these summaries not very well written. Claiming she wants to interview him for an article on the incel movement. This sounds dangerous. Gloria meets Darren for coffee and soon invites him back to her apartment, where his earnestness and painfully restrained desire inspire her to dominate him sexually. As their physical relationship intensifies, so does their emotional connection, and Gloria can't shake the sense that she's headed in a dangerous direction. An electric examination of sex and love. This doesn't sound like love to me. Self-loathing, yes. And 21st century loneliness. Self-Care is a devastating novel about women and men, what they want and what they say they want, and the violent tension between the two. I'm like on the fence for that one. I don't know. It sounds interesting, but it also sounds a little tough. Like it could work or it could be awful. Let me know what you think in the comments below. What are your thoughts? I want to hear from you. This next one sounds a little bit sad. It could be really good, but it does sound a bit sad. It's called Roufous and Calliope by Sarah Louise Butler. The summary reads, in this stunning tale of love and loss, a middle-aged cartographer suffering from memory loss and claustrophobia hikes through the interior of British Columbia in search of a tree house where he spent one memorable summer on the run with his 4 siblings. Ooh, that's a lot of siblings. In Roufous and Calliope, Sarah Louise Butler takes readers deep into the rugged British Columbia interior, where the mysteries of nature collide with the fragile threads of memory. Rufus Flanagan, a modern-day cartographer, embarks on a solo trek through an ancient mountain pass in search of the treehouse hideaway where he spent one memorable childhood summer on the run with his 3 older half-siblings and his twin sister, Calliope. Oh, okay, so it's a twin story. With every step, the vast untamed wilderness presents both a physical and emotional challenge, as Rufus must confront not only the treacherous terrain, but the unraveling of his own mind, his memories, sometimes vivid, sometimes slipping away, become a map guiding him through towering forests. This sounds dangerous. It sounds like it's like an adventure story, but also a getting lost story, or maybe getting found. His memories, sometimes vivid, sometimes slipping away, become a map guiding him through towering forests, dry creek beds, and smoke-filled skies. Yet in this wilderness, not everything is as it seems. Echoes of the past lead Rufus on a journey that blurs the line between dream and reality. As the elements close in, this novel offers an unforgettable tale of survival, memory, and the bond between the siblings. I mean, it sounds really good. This is a book that I feel could go any number of different ways. But it sounds good, and it's set in BC, so I imagine there's a bit of nature writing in there as well. Like an autumn walk at dusk, right? Dreams, reality. And apparently Butler is an environmental writer from BC, so I think there might be, yeah, there's going to be some wildlife writing in there as well. Next is a book that I've seen on shelves in bookstores here in and around Montreal, and it's made me very curious, and you'll see why in just a minute. It's called Letters to Kafka by Christine Estima, and this is a historical novel which is based on letters between Milena Jasenska, hope I'm saying that right, and Franz Kafka. It's described as a sweeping, tragic romance and feminist adventure about translator and resistance fighter Milena Jasenska's torrid love affair with Franz Kafka. In 1919, Milena, a clever and spirited 23-year-old, is trapped in an unhappy marriage to literary critic Ernst Pollack. Since Pollack is unable to support the pair in Vienna's post-war economy, Milena must supplement their income by working as a translator. Having previously met her compatriot Franz Kafka in the literary salons of Prague, she writes to him to ask his permission to translate his story, The Stoker, from German to Czech, becoming Kafka's first translator. That part of it is true, and the letters are, there are for sure letters between the two of them which have been published. So I'm not sure what her twist is going to be on it, but I'm curious. The letter itself launches an intense and increasingly passionate correspondence. Milena is captivated by Kafka's energy, intensity, and burning ambition to write, and Kafka is fascinated by her wit, rebellious spirit, and intelligence. They meet twice for lovers' trysts, but can such an intense connection endure beyond a fleeting affair? In her remarkable debut novel, Christine Estima weaves little-known facts and fiction into a rich tapestry, powerfully portraying the struggles of a woman forced to choose between the roles of wife, lover, and intellectual. That sounds interesting to me. I would like to read that one. I know I can get it because I've seen it everywhere in bookstores in and around Montreal, like I said. Next book I'm really curious about as well. It's called Black Cherokee by Antonio Michael Downing. This sounds really good. Again, this way of describing books, it's Queenie meets Frying Plantain. I've read Queenie, it was great. I don't know what Frying Plantain is. So Queenie meets Frying Plantain in this courageous coming-of-age story set in the 1990s, which is a fun era. Everyone's obsessed with the 1990s now. About a mixed-race Black girl fighting for recognition in a South Carolina Cherokee community that refuses to accept her ancestry as legitimate. On the rain-swollen banks of the River Etsy in South Carolina, Ophelia Blue Rivers, 6 years old in 1992, catches frogs and stretches to reach the swaying sunflowers. She's an orphan, raised in a rustic cabin by her grandma Blue, a descendant of the Black Cherokee freedmen. Caught in deep currents of history that she doesn't understand, she is, as her grandma says, half Black, half Cherokee, and all mixed up. While Ophelia may not always understand where she came from, there's no mistaking where she'd rather be. Caught in the warmth of Grandma Blue's cabin, listening to bedtime Cherokee legends, as collard greens hiss in the frying pan. But one day, a tall stranger with a black denim jacket and a charming smile appears, and his arrival shatters Ophelia's world. She finds herself whisked away from all she knows to live with her auntie Oba, the boisterous woman she had only met in rumors. So begins Ophelia's spirited, at times harrowing search for home and family, a journey that takes her from a majority white high school to the inner sanctum of a Black evangelical church, to the throbbing dance floors of underground Southern clubs, and to a final devastating encounter with the scion of a wealthy white family. She must ask herself, what does it mean to belong when the terms of that belonging come at such a high price? This sounds so good. This is like the best one, I think. This is the one I really want to read. It just sounds so good. Let me know what you think. Sounds really good. The next book is Pick a Color by Souvankham Thammavongsa. I can never say her last name. Thammavongsa. I read her set of short stories, How to Pronounce Knife, and I really, really enjoyed that story collection. So I'm looking forward to this as well. This is her first novel, I think, and it has an endorsement by Eleanor Catton, a knockout, Every Punch Lands, another endorsement by Rita Bullwinkle, one of the greatest novels I have ever read. Wow, that's quite an endorsement. So the main character, Ning, is a retired boxer, but to the customers who visit her nail salon, she is just another worker named Susan. On this summer's day, much like any other, the Susans buff and clip and polish and tweeze. They listen and smile and nod, but beneath the superficial veneer, Ning is a woman of rigorous intellect and profound depth. A woman enthralled by the intricacy and rhythms of her work, but also haunted by memories of paths not taken and opportunities lost. A woman navigating the complicated power dynamics among her fellow Susans, whose greatest fears and desires lie just behind the gossip they exchange. As the day's work grinds on, the friction between Ning's two identities as anonymous manicurist and brilliant observer of her own circumstances will gather electric and crackling force and at last demand a reckoning with the way the world of privilege looks at a woman like Ning. Told over one single day, with a razor-sharp precision and wit, Pick a Color confirms Souvankham Thammavongsa's place as literature's premier chronicler of the immigrant experience. I can see that the short stories were fantastic, so this novel is probably really great as well. Another book that piqued my curiosity on this list is called 5 Seasons of Charlie Francis. This is a debut novel by Darica Roach, a member of Glooscap First Nation. She is a mixed ancestry writer living in what's now referred to as Dartmouth, but it's the Punamu Quatik, I can't pronounce it, lands. But Dartmouth is the city across the bridge from Halifax, which is where I'm from. So I was curious about this one. It sounds like it could be really good. It's about a single mother, that's the storyline. A bold, refreshing, and darkly funny debut novel about a mixed ancestry Mi'kmaq woman balancing academia, grief, love, and new motherhood for fans of Fleabag and Amanda Peters. I hate when they do that. When the tides in the Cobequid Bay went out and left stretches of mudflats, I could walk halfway to the other shore. Sometimes the mud engulfed my feet right up to my ankles and made it hard to move. The longer you stayed stuck, the harder it was to keep going. Charlie Francis's 5-year plan has gone to shit. She was supposed to greet the new millennium by diving headfirst into a master's degree, but her thesis has ground to a halt. Y2K, oh, it's set in the aughts. Y2K was a bust. Her rambunctious family and claustrophobic hometown are driving her around the bend. And the maybe love of her life, Adam, keeps joking about her moving home to marry him and have his babies. When Charlie's beloved uncle, the same person who told her to get out of town and never look back, dies suddenly, Charlie leans into her independence, breaking Adam's heart and rushing headlong into an academic career despite the baked-in racism of the predominantly white institution. When she unexpectedly becomes pregnant, she has to navigate being a mostly single mother on top of everything else. Charlie finds herself at a crossroads, and only so much stress baking can keep reality at bay. How can she reconcile being a student of history within the colonial system that exploited her ancestors? How can she be a good mother when she can barely afford groceries? And how can she be a proud Mi'kmaq woman when the world seems determined to keep her down? Maybe it's time to find a new 5-year plan. This reminds me a bit of And Then She Fell by Alicia Elliott, which was on the Women's Prize long list, not this year, but the year before. Or was it the Booker? No, I think it was the Women's Prize. So if you haven't read that yet, or you're curious about that, I'll leave my review of And Then She Fell in the description box below. But this sounds similar in terms of the plot. And then she felt was very good. And I think this has the potential to be very good as well. And of course, there is the prequel or sequel to Bunny by Mona Awad called We Love You, Bunny. I kind of have stayed away from this one. I don't know. I'm nervous it's going to displace my love of Bunny or somehow contaminate my love of Bunny, which who knows why I would feel that way, but I'm just nervous. I'm nervous. It's kind of like what just happened with Taylor Swift. The betrayal, the poor quality work. Okay, I'm sorry, Mona Awad. I don't want to prejudge you. I need to read your book before I decide. Anyway, this is a sequel or a prequel to Bunny. It's also being billed as a standalone. It's dark academia. If you haven't read Bunny and you don't know what I'm talking about, again, I will leave a review in the description box below, but I'm pretty sure most people have heard of Bunny and know what it's about. It's the same character from Bunny in this novel, Samantha Heather McKay. She is a lonely outsider student in this highly selective MFA program in New England. And she was ostracized at first and then ultimately seduced by this clique of creepy rich white girls who call themselves Bunny, like Heathers. And so that was the premise for Bunny. In the opening of We Love You, Bunny, Sam has just published her first novel to great critical acclaim. But at a New England stop on her book tour, her one-time frenemies, furious at the way they've been portrayed, kidnap her. So now, a captive audience, it's her and our turn to hear the Bunny's side of the story. One by one, they take turns holding the axe and recount the birth throes of their unholy alliance, their discovery of their unusual creative powers, and the phantasmagoric adventure of conjuring their first creation. With a bound and gagged Sam, we embark on a wickedly intoxicating journey into the heart of dark academia. A fairy tale slasher that explores the wonder and horror of creation itself, not to mention the transformative powers of love and friendship. Bunny. So, yes, there is a very clear link between these two novels. They're saying you can read it as a standalone, but I think probably it's the kind of thing that you might appreciate more if you've read Bunny. So I'm just putting that out there. I haven't read it yet. Yes, I don't know. I might wait a little bit to read that one because I have to get over my anxiety about it. It's definitely on my radar, and the other books that I've read by Mona Awad I've mostly liked. Rouge was the one that lost me. But the other ones I did like. Okay, switching gears now. It's The Tortoise's Tale by Kendra Coulter. It's a very fall-looking book. And this is told from the perspective of a giant centuries-old tortoise. Maybe it's not that much different than from Bunny. I don't know. Magical realism, yes. A century of American history unfolds through the eyes of a giant tortoise with a heightened awareness for live music. I'm so sorry, my camera keeps going in and out. I don't know what the problem is. Okay, so this giant tortoise has a heightened awareness for live music, the location of edible flowers, and the nuances of human behavior in this spellbinding debut novel. Okay, hopefully it's going to stop doing that thing where it focuses and loses its focus. Okay, so this tortoise is snatched from her ancestral lands, finds herself in an exclusive estate in Southern California where she becomes an astute observer. Oh, it's still doing it. Where she becomes an astute observer of societal change. Her journey is one of discovery as she learns to embrace the music of jazz and the warmth of a human connection. The tortoise's story is enriched by her bond with Takeo, the estate's gardener, who sees her as a being with thoughts and feelings, not just a creature to be observed. The tortoise's mind and heart are further expanded by Lucy, a young girl who names the tortoise Magic and shares a friendship that transcends species. Together, they witness the estate's transformation into a haven for industry titans, politicians, and rock stars, each leaving their mark on the world and on Magic's heart. The tortoise embraces her role as a muse with gusto and witnesses new diverse human harmonies and the mighty winds of social change both uplift and tear them apart. Over the course of her lifetime, the estate changes ownership, bringing raucous Hollywood parties and animals both familiar and unexpected. There are also threats, as the estate's idol is not immune to the ravages of a damaged planet. This sounds quite whimsical, but maybe also trying to deal with some profound issues through the voice of a tortoise. I don't know. Do I sound skeptical? I sound skeptical. But I was curious about it. Maybe some of you will be curious about it as well. Anarchists in Love by Robert Hough. I think that's how you say the name. So in this compelling novel, acclaimed author Robert Hough recreates political violence and revolutionary idealism that flowed through New York City during the Gilded Age of the 1890s. At its center are real-life revolutionists Emma Goldman and Alexander Sasha Berkman, whose passionate love affair fuels their commitment to creating a better world. This sounds like something I could really get behind. Following their chance meeting at a New York cafe in 1890, Emma is fleeing a loveless marriage, while Sasha is becoming convinced that only a new system of thought called anarchism will liberate working people from poverty. Two poor young immigrants join New York's political underground to overthrow all forms of government. Swept up by her new egalitarian beliefs, Emma gains a reputation as a rousing public speaker, extolling the radical virtues of workers' rights, free love, and women's liberation. At the same time, Sasha's own ambitions become mired in jealousy and inhibition. But when shocking news arrives that industrialist Henry C. Frick has ordered the fatal shootings of strike steel plant workers in Pennsylvania, Sasha and Emma plot a violent act that they hope will ignite a worldwide anarchist revolution. Wow. So, as the first work of fiction to recount this captivating story, Anarchists in Love casts light not only on a politically charged chapter of history, but also on forces of desperation and insurgence that are still in effect today. That sounds so good. That sounds really, really good. I'm going to see if I can find that one, because I want to read that. I've never heard of these people, or I've never heard of that before. I love it when I find books that teach me something about history as well. Okay, this sounds good too, but for different reasons. This is called Homo Sapiens by Emily A. Weedon. Described as being filmic, funny, and genuinely terrifying. Homo Sapiens is part detective story, part vampire myth, and an all-biting, pun intended, exploration of the horrors of pregnancy and the powers of sisterhood. These women are out for blood, is the subheading. Detective Luke Stockton is preparing for his first child with his wife Beatrice, but balancing work and home is a challenge as she is behaving with increasing strangeness. Beatrice begins to frequent a med spa, offering mysterious prenatal checkups, leech treatments, and vampire facials. Oh yes. And against his will, Luke finds himself irresistibly drawn to the spa's sophisticated owner, Cleo, who has a deadly secret to keep. Okay, this sounds like Rouge. Pressure builds for Luke as he investigates a series of murders involving exsanguinated, I guess that means bloodletted boys, runaway boys. Trailing a perplexing killer and bent on protecting his wife and their child, Luke is thrust into a shadowy, erotic world of wealth, subterfuge, and danger. And the closer he gets to the truth, the more danger he courts for himself and his family. Well, a bloodthirsty fairy tale, I suppose. That could be good for Halloween season, for October. So another one that I've chosen is called Other Evolutions by Rebecca Hirsch Garcia. Ooh, and this also sounds very good. It's supposed to be for readers of Emily St. John Mandel. So Emily St. John Mandel wrote Station 11, or at least that was her first book, and I'm a big fan of hers. This story is about Alma Alt, the sheltered youngest daughter of an interfaith, interracial Jewish-Mexican couple. She rarely adventures far from her home. on a wealthy tree-lined street in Ottawa, where nothing ever happens. Oh yes, Montreal is playing a part. The one time she did, striking out to visit her older sister Marnie in Montreal, things ended in disaster as she found out that beautiful blonde Marnie had been lying about their family's background, trying to pass herself off as white. The fallout from that betrayal leads to a devastating accident, one that claims Alma's arm in someone's life. Whoa. Alma is now stuck in a holding pattern, unable to move past her grief. But Alma's life is turned upside down by an encounter just steps from home with an impossible person, the boy she watched die. Oh, it's like a ghost? Huh. This is a literary debut with a dark plot twist that reveals the uncanny and the mundane, seeing us through the worst parts of our lives toward the weird and wonderful things right in our own backyard. This sounds good. It's a little bit inspired, obviously, by Passing by Nella Larson, but I'd be curious about this. This sounds interesting. And it's a mystery, so it fits for the spooky season. This cover is pretty freaking spooky, if you ask me. I'm just gonna try to find as many of these books in my library as I can, and then I'm obviously not gonna read them all, but I might peruse some of them. I love looking at these lists because most of these books I haven't even heard of. So it really helps to put books on my radar. So this book came out in August. It's by Ian Williams, who wrote a book called Reproduction, which I actually picked up and have on my shelf, but I haven't had a chance to read yet. This one is called You've Changed. Middle-aged and about to be dumped from his construction job, Beckett is not feeling his best, especially since his wife, Princess, is already pressuring him to improve himself. She's a fitness instructor, of course she is, who spends a lot of time and energy fine-tuning every inch of her body. Oof. Still, they both think their marriage is basically fine until a couple of friends show up for a visit, their mutual affection and sexual chemistry loudly on display. In one weekend, they upset the tenuous balance between Beckett and Princess, throwing them into parallel midlife crises. Princess, what a name, thinks the problem is physical and attempts to revive Beckett's interest with relentless surgical alterations and bodily enhancements that have the opposite effect on her husband. Oh boy. Beckett tries to woo Princess back to him by relaunching his contracting business, laying his manly accomplishments at her feet. This sounds really good. Then while Princess is away pursuing even more drastic beauty measures, Beckett meets Gluten. These names! An energetic and erratic man devoted to living in the moment, whom Beckett feels drawn to in ways that surprise him. Beckett is changing. Princess is changing. What will happen to their already stressed marriage? This sounds really good. I haven't read anything of his. Maybe I'll start with this instead of the one that I have on my shelf, she says. Oh, that sounds good. This one, I don't know how easy it's going to be to find for people, but I really love the sound of it. It's called Starry, Starry Night by Shani Mootoo. In Starry, Starry Night, Mootoo gives us the singular voice of Anju Ghoshal, a young girl living in 1960s Trinidad. Through Anju's innocent and clear-eyed observations, the reader becomes both a witness to and a participant in her negotiations of an unexpectedly new and complex life, spanning from the ages of 4 to 12. So it's a coming-of-age story. Set against the backdrop of a politically exciting time in Trinidad's history, just before and after it gained independence, we meet Anju's beloved Ma and Pa and her socially advancing family. While preoccupied with their own dramas, the adults around her often fail to recognize the needs of the children who depend on them. Well, it was the 1960s, right? Beautifully crafted and rich with sumptuous detail, this unique narrative coalesces into a portrait of a child who, despite her privileged appearance, must ultimately fend for herself because her safety depends on it. I don't know. There's not enough there maybe, but I don't know very much about Trinidad's history, and I think it could be interesting, and I always like a coming-of-age novel. And the author seems very interesting. She's written 6 novels, 3 collections of poetry, and 1 short story collection. Her work has been long and shortlisted for the Booker Prize and a bunch of other prizes. So she's a very well-received author. Oh, too many books. Okay, this one really surprised me. John Irving has another book out. He hasn't written a book in 40 years or something, but he has a book out. I was really surprised to see it on this list. It's called Queen Esther. So after 40 years, John Irving returns to the world of his best-selling classic novel and Academy Award winner, The Cider House Rules, revisiting the orphanage in St. Cloud's, Maine, where Dr. Larch takes in Esther, a 3-year-old Jew whose life is shaped by anti-Semitism, but she's only 3 years old. Esther Nacht is born in Vienna in 1905. Her father dies on board a ship from Bremerhaven to Portland, Maine, and anti-Semites murder her mother, in Portland. In St. Cloud's, it's clear to Dr. Larch, the orphanage physician and director, that the abandoned child not only knows she's Jewish, but she's familiar with the biblical Queen Esther she was named for. Dr. Larch knows it won't be easy to find a Jewish family to adopt Esther. He doubts he'll find any family to adopt her. When Esther is 14, soon to become a ward of the state, Dr. Larch meets the Winslows, a philanthropic family with a history of providing for unadopted orphans. The Winslows aren't Jewish, but they detest anti-Semitism and similar prejudices. Esther's gratitude to the Winslows is unending. As she retraces her steps to her birth city, Esther keeps loving and protecting the Winslows, even in Vienna. The final chapter of this historical novel is set in Jerusalem, 1981, when Esther is 76. So we go through the whole span of her life. I don't know about this. I'm not sure. I don't know how to feel about this one. I guess I have to read it to be able to say. It's quite a choice, an interesting choice of topic by John Irving. Are there any John Irving lovers out there? Let me know in the comments below. I used to love John Irving books when I was quite a bit younger, but I haven't read anything by John Irving in a long time. It was one of my friends' favorite authors when we were younger. This book I am curious about because I read another book of this author's which really screwed up my head, and I was really interested to see his name on this list. So the author is Michael Redhill, and I had read Bellevue Square by him, which I didn't really like. It really became too convoluted and twisted up for me, but a lot of people really like his other book, Bellevue Square. And the new book is The Trial of Katterfelto. So I think this is more of a historical novel, so it might be a little easier to digest. In the late 18th century, the conjurer and amateur scientist Gustavus Katterfelto has made a name for himself traveling across the English countryside with a bag of tricks. For audiences, his astonishing stunts are pure magic. For Katterfelto, each one is carefully engineered and executed with the help of his colleague, confidant, and amanuensis, and our narrator, Roger Gossage. Yet one day in their travels, the two men come across a mystifying object beyond their ken, a metal horn that emits a disembodied woman's voice. Oh wow, that kind of makes me think of Siri. Does it make anybody else think of Siri? She calls herself Siri of Toronto. Wait a minute, what? She calls herself Siri of Toronto. Well, that's not an accident, and claims to speak from a place plagued by climate catastrophe and social unrest. So as they begin to use the horn in their magic shows, Gossage and Katterfelto must work to understand the origin and intent of Siri's call, a quest that will put them up against the limits of reason and test Roger's allegiance to the man he calls his friend. I don't know if this is historical fiction or if it's entirely made up. Okay, well this might be as convoluted and strange as Bellevue Square. I don't know. I did manage to find this one at my library and I took it out, so we'll see if I can manage it or not. We'll see. It sounds good. It's just that his last book I didn't enjoy. I'll leave the review of Bellevue Square in the description box below. And the last book in my list, going out with a bang because I think this one sounds really fascinating, is Three Parties by Ziyad Saadi. This is, I think, like a retelling, like a stream of consciousness style writing in the vein of Virginia Woolf, and it's like a retelling of Mrs. Dalloway. or a reimagining of Mrs. Dalloway. So it's actually from the perspective of a queer Palestinian refugee who plans to come out at this elaborate dinner party. So yeah, modern reimagining of Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf, which I haven't read. I just read To the Lighthouse, but I have not read Mrs. Dalloway. So it would be cool to read this and Mrs. Dalloway concurrently, but I don't know if I'm going to have time to do that. But still, this is very high up on my list. So Firas Darir wakes up on his 23rd birthday with a sense of purpose. Today he'll jump from a stage 3 to a stage 6 in his self-determined coming out scale, professing his sexuality to a captive audience of immediate and extended family, friends, acquaintances, co-workers, and neighbors. But despite the meticulously designed invitations, carefully chosen place settings, and floral centerpieces, painstakingly curated playlist, and agonizingly fretted over menu, factors begin to spin out of his control. Threatening to thwart his big moment are his younger brother, whose mental fragility requires him to be monitored at all times, his cantankerous grandfather, who's just completed his 3rd escape from the retirement home, the De Reer's embittered housekeeper and Firas' arch nemesis, who could scoop the story before he gets the chance, his harried boss, who on this day of all days calls him into work at the architecture firm, where his colleagues share a talent for butchering his name, and his mother, whose accidental text messages may have blown the cover of an illicit extramarital affair. There's also the fact that Firas, too, has found himself in a love triangle of sorts, choosing between soft and steady Therese and fiery Kashif, who makes sport out of demonstrating how Palestinian he is. As the future Firas has precisely architected for himself slips further out of his grasp, the past comes crashing in like a wrecking ball. Sharp, darkly funny. I mean, you can tell it's darkly funny. This is a well-written summary because you can tell it's funny. And full of surprises, Three Parties pays twisted homage to a literary classic, gleefully upends the Western coming-out narrative, and sensitively explores the traumas and pressures faced by Palestinian immigrants, all in the span of a single life-changing day. I want to read this so bad. This sounds fantastic. Yes, I'm going to try to find this one first, I think. I mean, there are quite a few on this list that I would really like to read. I hope that I've piqued your interest for some Canadian books for this last quarter of the year. Can you believe it? Let me know in the comments below if you have any other suggestions of books coming out that you think should be on my list or on my radar. If you made it to the end of this video, drop me a fall symbol of some kind, like a squirrel or a nut or a turning leaf, whatever you think fits the vibe, even a ghost. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now. Charlie Francis's 5-year plan has gone to shit. Did I say flying plantain? Frying plantain. An electric examination of women and men, sex and love, self-loathing, let's try that again. Memoir, I guess it's sort of a memoir that she wrote. It's a memoir. This is about a woman who is sent to a reform school because she leaves her child. Nola, hey! Nola, no! Nola, I said